Good morning. Well, we're in the farming season now. So for me, that means service calls. Irrigators that won't move out of the way so the farmers can get their work done. So one of the first challenges of service calls sometimes is finding where the pivot is, especially when they're ones that I don't get to very often. It really helps on the FieldNet because there's a map that I can look at on FieldNet and find my way right to them that way. Otherwise, you gotta try to decipher farmers' directions sometimes, and that can be interesting because they know what they're talking about, but I don't always know where they're talking about. So this irrigator here, we got a call for, it didn't move. It looked like it started on FieldNet, but it didn't actually move. A couple things that could have happened, or could be the cause of that, are the last tower isn't moving because an irrigator follows the last tower. The last tower controls the speed and when everything moves. So if the last tower isn't moving, the inner towers, they can move, you know, a little bit when you first start them up to get into a line, and then when you change directions, they'll move that way for a little bit to get back that way. But they won't continue moving unless the last tower moves, as long as everything's working right. And then in the next to last tower, there's an overwatering timer, which can, or if that doesn't get a trigger to reset, it will open the safety circuit and shut the whole thing down for an alignment fault because the safety circuit opens up. So first thing, since this one is the pivot point is the closest spot, we will start here. We'll check everything out at the pivot point. Make sure our power is good. Make sure we have power going out on our percentage wire. And see what we can find. So grab a few tools and my meter and start working. Well, that's what the inside of one of these panels looks like. If you don't know what you're doing in there, don't just stick your fingers in there and start poking around. Okay, this is incoming power is 483 phase, which means it will grab onto you and hurt you the whole time and kills you. So be cautious, or better yet, just leave it closed unless you know what's going on. And then this is a pivot control box, which this had the vision panel on it, but the module went bad, and this farmer decided to upgrade to a pivot control. Pretty simple to run. You just pick a direction and you push this to make it happen. If everything is working right, then the irrigator will start moving. So I've done some checks. We do have all three phases of our three-phase, and we have power going out on our percentage wire, so it should be signaling the last tower to run. It's everything we can do here. So now we get to go down to the end of the irrigator and see what's going on down there. One thing that I keep reminding people, something I had to be taught myself, is when you're leaving a panel, always make sure and shut the doors. I know you intend to come back, but things happen, and don't always remember that you left the doors open on the panels. And quite a few times we've come back and panels been open in a rainstorm, and then these computers don't like all that moisture, or mice get in it, and they make a real big mess. So before you leave, even if you're coming right back, close the door, latch them. That way you know it's not going to cause you more damage. All right, we made it down to the last tower. Nothing's planted out here yet, so it's a nice easy drive down the field. So one of the first things I'll check is make sure that the drivetrain is good. So when you have a motor that's like horizontal, like this one is, you should be able to turn it by hand. If you have one that's vertical or an upright motor, you will not be able to, just because of the gear reduction, the way the gear reduction is. So if you grab a crescent wrench or the right size wrench or Nipix pliers, you should be able to turn this over. It should move. You're gonna have to work at it, but you should be able to move it. I don't know if you can see that wheel moving or not, but so all the gearboxes, or none of the gearboxes are locked up. The motor isn't corroded. So the next thing to do is to get some exercise, climb up and see what we find up there. Okay, so with the pivot off, I've done some ohm tests in this last tower box. I've made sure that we have continuity between our, so this is a valley, so percent wire to our contactor, it's good continuity. We have good continuity across the contactor, so the contactor is not burned out. We have good ohms on our motor leads, so you just check, you know, between any two of the three, you know, do it all three ways, and should be, you know, 12 to 14 ohms, and but more importantly, it should be even across all the ways. That's okay. So then I check continuity between from the incoming three-phase wire to the contactor to make sure we don't have a bad disconnect switch. So all this is with the powers off, so this is all safe, right? All of that is good. One thing I did notice as I was climbing up here is this 1/4 inch hose is just hanging here, and that is for our end gun shutoff. It's not related to the problem that I got, that I was called out on, but this is the problem. So while I'm here, I'm gonna rehook this. This actually happens quite a bit during the winter. These hoses will push off. All right, so that's done. That's for the end gun shut off. So the end gun would not have been able to shut off if that wasn't hooked up. So since everything seems to check out okay here, I'm going to get my phone, and I can start it from here. That's the nice thing about FieldNet. So I'll check with my ears first. I'll listen, and I'll check with my nose. I'll smell, and we'll see what it is actually doing. And then if need to, we'll do some more electric test. One interesting thing is these are not steps. According to all the manufacturers, these are not steps. These are tower ties. You can stand on them, but they're not steps, because if you call them steps, then you get OSHA involved, and then you need more protection. So tower ties, not steps. Okay, now with FieldNet, I will attempt to start the irrigator with my phone. I'm just going to go in reverse because it's going away from the truck. Apply. The reverse is counterclockwise, forward is clockwise. So I'm doing all this from the ground, and it says it's going in reverse, but that's it. So we'll go make sure we have our 480 volts coming down the machine. We'll make sure we have 120 volts on our percent wire, and see what we find. So let's talk a little bit about safety gear. Leather gloves, safety glasses, insulated tools, insulated for at least 600 volts. Okay, climbing the tower ties. These are separated by quite a bit, so it's getting harder for an old guy like me. So let's see what we find here. So my meter's set to AC. We should have voltage here. 490. 490. So that's good. We should have voltage here. Oh, we only have... We do not have our 120 volts here. So let's go to ground. And no, we do not have our power going out on our percentage wire. So now we need to find out why. The next spot I would suspect would be the collector ring. So we'll try that, but first we're gonna shut the irrigator back off again so we don't forget to do that. Go back up on my phone here, simply hit stop and apply, and it tells me it stopped. So it's that easy. Okay, so we're back at the pivot point. The collector ring is that dome-shaped thing all the way up on top on a valley. So we need to get up there so we can check it out. Okay, quick look into collector ring on a valley or any of this style. So these are the wires that come up through the center, and then they go to the rings, and then these brushes right around on the rings, and our span cable is hooked to the brushes. So here's our percentage wire, and it's hooked up, and the collector ring is okay. The brush holder is okay. Sometimes these break, and we've got a good ohm measurement on it. So basically 0 ohms. So it's not here. I'll put this back together and then figure out where to go from here. This is part of troubleshooting. Well, this is a little embarrassing. So we did some work on this last late fall after everything's froze up, and had the J-pipe out, and somehow we missed. I mean, if you look here, it looks like, so orange is Zematic's percentage wire, purple is Valley's percentage wire, and it looks like it's hooked up, right? Nope. So there's our problem. We caused it. And we didn't have a chance to test run it because, like I said, it was late fall. The gearboxes were already froze up, and we don't like running them when it's below freezing here because we can potentially ruin a gearbox or a drive motor. So we never did a test run on this. So I'll get this wire hooked up and we will test run it now, make sure we get it right. Okay, our wire is hooked up. Now we're going to go in reverse again. Hit the go button. Contactor pulls in. And now you get to watch and see, is it moving? If you can't see all the way to the end, what you do is you let it run for a while and you wait to see if the inner towers move. Oh, 3's moving, 2's moving. There's 1 is moving. So what we're going to do is we're going to just wait. We're going to let 1 go through its cycle. And then we'll wait until it makes another cycle. So that way we ensure that it's not just the inner towers that are moving to get in alignment, but actually I can see all the way to the end of the irrigator, and I can tell that it has moved across a couple rows, and there it's moved, or tower 1 is moving again. And if you don't know, we count towers starting from the pivot point and work our way out. So the last tower is always the last tower, but tower 1 is always the one closest to the pivot point. Sometimes we get confusing when a farmer calls us up and tells us, well, it's the first tower. Well, we think it's the one closest to the pivot point, and they say it's the one all the way on the end. So just trying to clear up some confusion there. So now that the irrigator, her first hour cycled a few times, and the last hour is moved probably 12 feet in this time, I'm going to turn around and check that it works the other direction, because that's part of our verifying that everything works. So back to our pivot control. We'll go ahead and stop it and go in forward. So the first hours will always move some right away. And I can tell that the last hour is moving. I know you probably can't. So we'll wait until that first hour cycles again. See, 4, 3, 2 are moving. There's one. So if I didn't explain it before, the last tower controls how fast it runs. So we set the speed by our percentage. So we can just dial this in from 1 to 100. And that's how much of a, it's all in a 60-second cycle. So at 100%, it's running all 60 of the 60 seconds. If it's at 50%, it's running 30 seconds of that 60 seconds. And we do that so that we're able to adjust how much water we're putting down. So the faster it runs, the less water we're putting down. Conversely, the slower it runs, the more water we're putting down. There's a lot of other factors there, like how much the well is capable of producing, how we have the irrigator nozzled, the length of the machine. There's a lot of factors on how fast to run the machine. All right, so it's run multiple cycles that way. The farmer wanted it running in reverse, so we will turn our pivot control back to reverse, and we can actually just go, we don't have to stop it, we can just go right from forward to reverse. It shuts off, does a little delay, and then it starts moving the other way again. So this one is fixed. We will close everything back up again. Remember, close all the covers, and let the farmer know, and off to the next one. Thanks.